Hello and welcome to the Sami Parvez show. Today I'm joined by former Saskatchewan Green Party leader Victor Lu. We will be discussing about upcoming Saskatchewan general election and the issues in Saskatchewan. Thank you so much, Victor, to joining me on the Sami Parvez show. It's a great pleasure to have you, especially from Saskatchewan.
Yeah, thanks a lot for inviting me, Sammy.
Yeah,
Appreciate it.
yeah, it's my pleasure. And you have been the leader of Sask Green Party back in 2011 and 2016, but then you stepped down, and now Sask Green also is a new leader. I think she was recently got elected. Please correct me if I'm wrong. So, how do you see the Green Party performance in the next Saskatchewan general election? And so we saw, like there is a great green movement is ongoing for a long time. Some folks like students are bunking their classes and running Friday climate strike, something like that.
Mhm.
Like there are other goals too for the environment. But despite all that, we see like Green Party is not making any impact in the polls. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, I think the problem is about almost 10 years ago now, maybe eight, but the at the federal level with the polling, and this is why the Liberals at the federal level put so much emphasis on trying to create kind of a green agenda. You know, they put in a carbon tax, they tried to put in green energy regulations. They're
Mhm.
switching off, internal combustion engine cars by
Mhm.
2035 if the legislation remains the same, there will be no ICE cars sold in Canada. Like it's huge changes.
Yeah.
But the problem is the environment at the time when Justin Trudeau got in around 2015, it
Mhm.
was polling very high, like almost number one, number two issue. But
Yeah.
then since then, the economy, due to COVID, due to maybe overspending, a whole bunch of issues, the economy has kind of gone down and down. And so more and more people are either homeless, they can't get a home, they can't get jobs.
Yeah.
So the environment, usually when people are doing okay,
Mhm.
you notice in the polls the environment rises higher in the priority list. But when
Yeah.
people are under threat, can't feed my family, I don't have a place to live,
Mhm.
I lost my job,
Mhm.
suddenly the environment becomes second place. And that's the problem we have as a Green Party, Sammy, is how do we get people to understand that we do have to care for the environment, and we know that it is a long-term issue, but
Yeah.
the solutions that we offer can also address the issues that currently are affecting people. And one of the biggest things I've been promoting for well over 30 years is the idea of putting in a guaranteed income. Right, there
Yeah.
has to be security for everyone, and
Mhm.
then they can focus on the future more easily. Right, they don't have to dismiss the environment as much. So
And how currently like you see like we were talking off the camera, like regarding the uh it means employment in Saskatchewan, like despite lots of resources, but it seems like it's still many folks are unemployed or homeless. Like it
mm-hmm.
seems like I was like following back then. I think it was from I don't know. We were called from Saskatchewan Police Service, but there was a engagement, like between the local people and the police service. They were talking about this homelessness and the drug use, like why it is too high, and there was also a survey was there that how many people are like homeless. It seems like we are living in a first world country like Canada.
Mm-hmm.
Like it is second largest by area
Right.
after Russia. Like it means we
Okay.
have a great land, we have lots of resources, but we are not using in a good manner to utilize them for everyone. So how do you see like this thing in the end? Who should be held accountable for his homelessness? But my question was, how are the situation right now with respect to homelessness and unemployment?
Yeah, like I've lived in Regina since I was my family, my mom and dad moved in 1969 to Regina, Saskatchewan. So I've lived here for well over 50 years. So
Mm-hmm.
I've seen it gradually getting worse and worse. For about 20 decades, or sorry, 2 decades, 20 years of my life and into my 20s when I started university,
Yeah.
things were not great. There's always a little bit of homelessness, but now, almost 40 years later,
Yeah.
it's literally almost, I wouldn't say exploded, but it's certainly, really gotten so bad that
Mm-hmm.
it's so visible. Like I've never had a homeless camp, built in front of City Hall. Like literally, they were so frustrated. They basically, built a tent city in front of City Hall to bring attention to it. And the
Yeah.
mayor, instead of dealing with it, finding shelter for them, helping them get emergency, help and stuff, they basically put the police on them. And then when the media said, why are you putting the police on them? They said, oh, don't worry. These people are not really homeless. They're just drug abusers. They're just pretending to be homeless, like just lying. Right. And I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
come on, you're not helping by moving people, off of the lawn and then throwing them back on the street. They have nowhere to go. Right, Sammy? Like
Yeah.
they don't have high income. If they
Mm-hmm.
have any income at all, the government doesn't support them. If they're not disabled, they only give them $800 a month. Out of
Mm-hmm.
$800, you have to buy food for yourself. You
Yeah.
have to pay for shelter. You have to buy, any incidentals like a bus pass to get to work. And who's going to hire you if you can't get to work on time because you don't have a means, right? Like
Yeah.
it's blaming the victim is what's happened, eh? Like whether it's the provincial or federal or the mayor, the city council, they
Yeah.
they always blame the individual instead of saying, look, what can I do? Right?
Yeah.
I mean, there are a few good politicians that I know, they're trying to address this issue by saying, if we as a government have to exist, we have to fix the problems. We can't
Yeah.
keep worrying about people that have money. We have to
Mm-hmm.
worry about people that don't have the
Yes.
means to survive,
Yeah.
right? And so I think, yeah, it is a community issue, and I wish the politicians would really realize it's their job, right? If you get elected, your
Yeah.
job is to represent everyone. That includes the people that don't have money, right? Not just
Mm-hmm.
the people that
Yeah.
do.
Yeah, Victor, you are absolutely right with respect to that. But we always see like these elected officials,
Mm-hmm.
whenever they will get in and they will just work for the billionaires or
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
millionaires, like they
Yes.
seem like they walk back from their commitment. Sometimes there are some politician who says, yeah, we will change this thing, we
Mm-hmm.
saw like Prime Minister Justin Trudeau himself like promised for the electoral reform, but we did not see it, and today we have the longest ballot, like it happened
Yes.
in Toronto St. Paul's, and then it is going to happen in Montreal. But it seems like this is a pattern of these politicians. They will say everything to get elected, but when they will take the uh, charge, so then they don't then it means they don't do what they promised. And with respect to homelessness, it is an issue everywhere in Canada. And
Mm-hmm.
as you mentioned, like rather than resolving the issue, they're throwing like the police behind them to put them behind bars, or take them away from there,
Yes.
and not
Yes.
showing any solution. Despite I myself was working somewhere, I have seen like people are like searching food from garbage bin. Like
Yes.
this is extremely shocking. When I sat down with them and asked them, so what's happening? They say we don't have jobs. First of all, we don't have homes.
Yes.
And we who will work with me as I cannot take a bath or change my clothes. Like, and uh, I don't have a confirmed address, like exact
Mm-hmm.
address for me, like how can I get in? So it means government should look on these matters too, but it seems like uh, they are not taking these issues very seriously. And
Yeah.
how do you see like uh, Green Party performance? So I
Yeah.
think you already told me something like It is
Yeah,
being
I think the perspective and I think it's obviously it'll probably hopefully the debate during the next provincial election. I think it's scheduled in Saskatchewan for October.
yeah.
We'll probably be the party that basically pushes as hard as we can to embarrass the other two parties. The two parties that have power right now, the Sask
Mhm.
party is in government and the NDP is in opposition. And as much as I like the NDP, I wish them the best. I don't have any animosity toward the opposition party because I
Mhm.
think they're trying, but they're not trying hard enough, right? Like the outrage is not there, right? You and me, Sami, we were union organizers, union members.
Yeah,
They should use that power. They should organize the homeless, and
yeah,
they should basically, if they should say, look, give a deadline, right? I'm not saying, there's a very fine line between protesting legally and then crossing the line into, basically becoming criminals.
yeah,
But the issue is so severe. You just said, Sami, like if these people have no fixed address, they have no way to take a shower. Who would hire these people, right?
yeah.
You're making it impossible for them to even survive, let alone even find a job. So,
Mhm.
and yet you blame them, right? The
Yeah,
society says, but it's your fault. Yeah, but
yeah,
nobody wants to help, right? Like people that have money, and I don't think all the people, middle class, the wealthy, they I think they try and do what they can. Sometimes they write a check, they donate money, they maybe give food, but it's not enough. It's like the politicians somehow, and I think through the union movement that we were a part of, we need to organize almost like, we need to do a general strike, right? So I think talking to the Greens, we need to work with people, make them feel comfortable, because if that's not the way they want to do it, I don't know how else to get attention, right? Because the politicians, they go to work, they drive their nice car, they go home, they have a nice life. They don't feel it, right? And until they feel it, I don't know what else we can do, right? Like, I'll give you a quick example. Justin Trudeau, until he felt that pressure from the Freedom Convoy,
yeah,
he probably would have just kept going with the pandemic measures, right? The
yeah,
Freedom Convoy said, "Look, we did it for 2 years. We've had enough. We can't feed our families anymore. You need to do something, right?" And then, of course, again, they put in the police, and after that, though, they started dropping all the measures because people were fed up with it, right? And I sadly, Sami, I think that's probably what it's going to take. It's going to take people getting so angry. But then, there's a thin line, right? If you go too far,
yeah,
if you make too big of a threat or you start doing physical violence, they will arrest, anybody there, right? Anybody that shows up to that kind of protest, the
yeah,
police might sweep in and then we'll all be in jail. But I don't know. It really frustrates me, Sami, right?
yeah.
It's a very tough issue.
Yeah, it is extremely frustrating. But with respect to Freedom Convoy, there are
Mhm.
the Freedom Convoy organizer are still like suffering. They are
That's
facing
right.
charges and they are in the court.
Hmm.
Though like other criminals, it means they are openly walking on the streets.
Hmm.
They are not being caught. Like the crime rate is also high because
Hmm.
of, I don't know
Exactly.
whether it is the lack of resources or lack of laws. It means the bail system is not like cut and bail. Like they get released immediately after being arrested. So it is extremely also concerning, and that is also another issue. But
Hmm.
you also said like NDP, like it means you are in favor of them. But do you think the next or would you predict or so the next government will be of NDP, like Sask New Democrat, or will we see another Saskatchewan party government?
Yeah, it's a really it's a tough call. There's some polling that shows there's an opportunity, though it's very thin. Like again, the margin for victory, at least if you can go by the percentage of vote, it's only 2 to 5%. So if you go deeper, now that's taking all the polling in all the the whole province. But if
Mm-hmm.
you break it down to each riding, it
Yeah,
looks like the NDP, the city people, the urban ridings, they will sweep the seats. So the NDP will take all the cities, possibly even the northern city and the northern ridings,
yeah,
but they still are missing about roughly between 13 to 15 seats to get power, right? So they could get as high as 25, but they need at least a minimum because there's 61 seats. You have to win 31, right? It's
Yeah.
not great because it's one extra seat, but any party that wants to control Saskatchewan from the provincial government, they
Yeah.
have to win 51%, which is 31 seats.
Yeah.
So to get a comfortable majority, ideally it'd be 35, maybe closer to 40. But
Mhm.
the problem is all the majority of seats, I think, are in the rural area, and the rural people, they've been convinced that the NDP is evil. There is no other party. The Sask party is the only party. And then we've heard from other parties, because they've tried to organize the rural seats too. They said the corruption is so bad. The Sask party, if they can't bribe you to vote for them, they will
Yeah.
threaten you, right? They'll say,
Wow.
if you don't vote for us and we
Mhm.
find out, we will punish you after we form government, right? So then that's not a democracy anymore, right? That's
Yeah.
a dictatorship, right? And that's a sad thing. The Sask party has started using the government to threaten its own people rather than convince the people, right? And
Mhm.
all we can do is organize, and explain to people, look, you again, just like the homeless, you have to stand up for what's right, even if it's a tough decision. You have to elect somebody that is going to resist the corruption and actually do something, right? And speak out.
Mhm.
Otherwise, nothing will change, Sami. Even with NDP elected, if they don't elect good people,
Yeah.
nothing will change. They'll just shuffle the chairs and say, well, we gave homeless people an extra $100 through welfare.
Mhm.
That's the most we can do, right? Like, they might say that's a lot of money, but $100,
Yeah.
that won't even, that's maybe a 1 week worth of groceries, right? And I mean, God sakes, like, I don't know. It's like I said, the experience I had is, we got results when we organized enough people in the union to say,
Mhm.
let's go on strike and
Yeah.
force the company, right?
Mhm.
It's not a pleasant situation. Nobody wants to do it, but I don't know what else we can do at this point.
Mhm.
If words fail, then we have to
Mhm.
use action somehow. So,
Yeah, yeah, and as you brought up the union, like I work
mm-hmm,
in union, and you as well. You already mentioned that one.
right.
But I think the unions are being soaked, as you already mentioned that thing. Like it seems like they are working together with the companies. Like
Mm-hmm,
they nowadays they don't work for the workers, but they
mm-hmm,
work for themselves and try to just help out the companies. I was working somewhere
mm-hmm,
which is I don't recall that place name, but there was a union like UFCW. I think I don't recall the number, but it
mm-hmm,
was something like that. Like UFCW. It seems like there were some folk who said the union is very soft to the company. It seems like as you are saying, like it means they are not doing what they should do and what they did in the past. Like these were the unions who brought these changes, working just 40 hours in a week, eight
mm-hmm.
hours in a day. Like these
Yeah.
these all were done by a great unions leaders, but we don't see such unions nowadays.
Yeah, yeah. No, the hope. If you look to our southern neighbors, the United States,
Yeah.
there was a very corrupt union. Most people would identify it as corrupt. It's the union title is called United Auto Workers, the UAW. So they
Yeah.
control most of the auto plants where people build cars in the United States. And when Canada started building cars, they also affiliated with the United Auto Workers, but the Canadian workers found the American union so corrupt. They take the money, but they wouldn't represent the workers. They do side deals with the company and get lower paid contracts. The Canadian workers voted to separate themselves, and they created the Canadian Auto Workers, and then now they've joined into a larger federation, and they call themselves what is their new name now? They joined with a bunch of federal workers, but it's something it's not UAW, but anyway, it's a bigger union, different name, but
Yeah.
they separated. But the lucky thing is, in the United States, this one guy who is like us, I think he has a good heart, at least from what I read in the media. He climbed as high as he could. He was a vice president of the union, and he'd always criticize his own president and his other workers for not representing the people on the ground. And then when the president and the current his deputy president in trouble. He got rid of those guys and he ran and he won. And most recently, he threatened to strike all of the contracts because they all came open and they got
Yeah.
huge pay increases. They got bonuses, they got better benefits.
Mhm.
Now we're heading into a period where because I think the car companies aren't making as much money, they're starting to talk about layoffs. But
Mhm.
he at least secured good contracts, right? Even if people get laid off, they'll probably get layoff pay, which means they'll get big amount of money to survive on to find other jobs, right?
Yeah.
So he takes his job very seriously, and he's very angry at the companies for not delivering more money to the workers, even when they were profitable. So
Mhm.
that's what we sort of need in political leadership too, right? We need
Yeah.
leaders that are really concerned about everybody's welfare, not just for the rich, right?
Mhm.
It's easy to cater to the rich. All they care about is more money, right? So you can give them a tax cut and they go away happy. But you got to help the people that have no home, no jobs, no income, nothing, right? They literally exist on the streets. Who cares about these people? And then they fall into drug abuse, and now
Mhm.
they're talking about closing all the drug injection sites.
Yeah.
That might be an opportunity for people to maybe look at a different way of living, but from what I've heard, the evidence shows that if you take away the sites, more people will just die, right? They won't be able to get off the addiction. They just have no support at all, right? And
Mhm.
I don't know if that's true. I haven't read the reports, but from what I know, that is the case because people, in order to change, like to quit being addicted, it seems the information I've read, they have to feel someone cares about them, right? That even though they are addicted to drugs, we still care about you and we will help you get off the drugs. We
Yeah.
shouldn't help them continue using drugs, but we have to somehow show them compassion, love, kindness. But if we treat them, oh, you're a waste to society, they'll just continue using drugs until they die, right? Until they
Yeah.
they either get killed or die from the drug use. And so
Yeah.
I don't know. It's a very tough because there's only somewhat limited resources, right? We have to use them carefully, but I don't know. We'll see what happens. Everyone's divided right now, right? We don't have a united front, right? Some parties want to, cut the drug usage sites off, and others want to expand them, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, you are absolutely right, and you are talking about those unions. Yeah, they fought. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I was reading, like, I think I received like assignment for that what you were talking about, the union auto workers, like then they
Mm-hmm.
provided for that one. I remember that one when I did not know it. It happened very long time ago, like, but back in 2020 when I was in university, I was doing assignment. So I
Okay.
I I was given task it mean to read this one, and it mean watch that video, like there is a huge clip available on YouTube, how they negotiate and how they get separate
Mm-hmm.
from the US one and the Canadian force
Oh, okay.
create
Neat.
their own one. Yeah, I
Yeah, yeah.
now recall it. Yeah, I
Very
exactly.
cool. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And with respect to, I was working in Compass company here
Yeah.
in the campus, which is called Canteen in Cambridge, and the union is like Union 163 and 175. They represent, and there were some folks who said that union is very soaked to that company. Like it seems like the company, the union is lobbying for the company, then for the worker. It
Yes.
is been going on. Like as you already brought up, like how union
Yeah.
how it has
You
worked
know,
to companies.
I think it's fascinating, Sammy, having this discussion because I've talked to many people, taxi drivers, people that I meet on the street, just anybody that has time for a quick conversation. And I
Yeah.
kind of test am I feeling the things I'm feeling about our society in Canada? Do
Yeah.
people feel the same or am I out to lunch, right? Maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm just an angry, bitter old man now.
Yeah.
But everybody agrees, right? When I talk to them, they say, yes, corruption is endemic.
Yeah.
The unions that used to protect working people, almost nobody has anything good to say about them, whether they're a member or not. And and I think it's because it's not just union members. It's almost like everybody that has a good job, they feel I don't want to lose my good job, so I pretend. I'm going to hide my. I'm going to pretend I don't see your suffering. I'm going to pretend there's nothing wrong, right? And it's just like you can't hide from poverty. You can't hide from suffering, right? Eventually, it will come to you, right? You even if you're a multimillionaire, you think, oh, I have multiple houses, I'll just run to a different house. Well, if the whole world is ignoring the problems of the suffering, right?
Yeah.
Eventually it'll explode. I mean, we know this from political history. Anybody that looks at political history, when 40, 50% or more, they can't feed themselves and their families, well, they start talking, what do we do about it? Well, eventually it leads, there's a history in Saskatchewan. There was an event that happened here in 1933, 35. It was called the Regina riots because, the homelessness decided to ride the railroads to go to Ottawa, not to riot, but to tell the government, look, what are you doing? There's no jobs, right? And so they started in BC and they were riding the railroads because they just hop on the train, illegally. And they got to Saskatchewan and they camped out in Regina. The
Wow.
prime minister got so afraid, they sent in all the police they could to stop them. And then somebody, who knows what happened, but it turned into a fight. But somebody threw a brick. The police pulled a gun, shot somebody, and then everybody just went crazy. They started killing each other, right?
Mm.
And it was just brutal. And so then from there, the opposition, who was against the government of the day, they managed to convince people, look, you don't want to see this kind of violence. You have to elect a new government for us to deal with it. And so when the election happened, the government changed, and then they put out, more. They ended the homeless camps. They put out more shelter, more, welfare money, and then things settled down, right? I don't know, Sammy. Is that what it's going to take? People rioting, going to Ottawa again? Maybe. I,
Mm.
I I hope not, right? It's fascinating. That's really neat that you took a university. Did you complete a degree?
No, like I
Okay.
just completed some courses. Like I think I did
Yes.
like some kind of writing course, and then I was taking couple of like law courses.
Okay. Yeah.
It
Yeah.
was not a complete degree, but I
Right.
get another degree from my back home, like
Hmm.
Pakistan. There I did a bachelor degree, like
Oh, wow.
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So that is not acceptable right here
Right.
from going to the university. I have to go some other. So I was taking this Queen's University, so which was online, like
Yeah.
setting it up, doing it
Yeah,
on.
I think just to speak to that, I think a lot of it, and I would, honestly, even though I'm running for a political office, I would say there is a lot of fraud, right? Because whether it's about not recognizing international studies,
Yeah,
right, coming here to Canada, or even myself, Sammy, I got my degree, at the University of Regina, 1994. Now I'm trying to go back a couple more years to get a teaching degree.
mm,
They're telling me, oh, because your degree, your classes are so old, you might have to retake everything.
wow,
Sammy, when I left university, it was $200. Now they want to charge me $1,000 a course, and
yeah,
international students they pay $3,000.
yeah,
Right? This is a ripoff, man. It's fraud. It's not worth that money. You're never going to get a job that'll ever pay this back, man.
yeah,
But what do you do?
yeah. Yeah, I think I spent like over like 3 to 4 thousand for the.
Oh,
I think each course was around like 600 something. So
wow.
it is not helpful.
Yeah.
So it seems like, as you mentioned, like you are graduated from here, like in Canada, like your course should be like your degree should be valuable,
Yeah,
like
and
it is
and
not
I'll tell you,
happening now.
yeah, they say get a degree, you'll get a better job. I think maybe 30%. This is my guess. About 30% of people that graduate, they go on to a good job. About 60, 70% of people that complete their degree, whatever field, they never, because when we were working with the Loblaw company, I met people, fellow cashiers. They had a chemistry degree, they had an art history degree, they had degrees. They're working with me, right? Just working. We didn't get a job in our career field,
Yeah,
and that's the thing. They make it sound like, oh, there's all these jobs. Well, there are jobs in the fields, but there's only limited jobs, right? And you, if you're lucky, maybe you decide to leave Canada, where maybe some of us that grew up here, and you go abroad. A couple of my friends, they got their degrees, they went abroad. One was in South Korea now, and the other guy is in Japan.
mhm,
It's been well over 30, 40 years now, probably. They went, left Canada, never came back. They got married there. They set up a life there, and they work there, right? And it's, I mean, good, right? But not everybody can do that, right? Not everybody wants to do that. And
mhm,
so I don't know. I don't know. I mean, obviously, if you become a teacher, society won't guarantee that you have a teaching job. but we should really, maybe put it out there that look, across Canada, there's only so many teaching jobs. So maybe, if there's only 100 jobs and 10,000 teachers, maybe we should think about becoming a teacher, because there's obviously too much of a demand, right? Or
Yeah,
not demand, I should say, too much of a supply, not enough of demand.
yeah, yeah, you're right. And
Mm.
yeah, it has been ongoing.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
have a brother who has a degree in computer science, so
Oh, wow.
he had to get like professional job of his field. He's working somewhere in a warehouse, so it does not make any
Wow.
sense. Why did he spend $1,000 and his
Yes.
time? So he's supposed to do something else
Oh my God.
rather than
That's, yeah, exactly.
studying at the university. So it sucks, like yeah, everyone says like it means this has been ongoing, and there
Hmm.
is no solution with this. Okay, let's come back to the politics.
Sure.
So yeah, so as you said, like NDP is still short of some seats to win.
Hmm.
Okay,
Yeah.
so and could you please confirm, are you running in this general election?
Yeah, I've been nominated to run in my home riding again, Regina Douglas Park.
Yeah.
So, but I'll probably be focusing my efforts. Naomi Hunter, who's our leader, she's been
Mhm.
canvassing her riding in Saskatoon, and
Yeah.
it's the best opportunity because it right now it has a Sask Party MLA, but he's not running again, and
Okay.
the NDP nominated a new person, so nobody knows this person. So, if the Green Party is to break through, we figure that's the best seat because she's been door knocking for over 3 years.
Mhm.
People know her. She lives there. She works there.
Mhm.
If we can win a seat or at least move the numbers higher, I
Yeah.
think we have a better opportunity. So I figure that's probably where I'm going to put my efforts. Door knocking and campaigning. Yeah.
Wow, that's great. Okay. But do so why like these NDP, Green, and some other parties, which
Mm-hmm.
is like same ideologies, like and also
Mm-hmm.
liberal maybe. By why don't you try to make a block, like
Mm-hmm.
to avoid the splitting votes? Do you have any idea? Like, are you trying to do something to try to sit down with liberals and NDP to make a small block where like you can win. So maybe the other party should not run in candidates down there.
Yeah, like I did. I worked prior to was it last year? It was either a year or two ago. I managed to get all the smaller parties in one room.
Yeah,
Unfortunately, our leader, Nemu Hunter, couldn't come down to Regina, but I got all the leadership of the smaller parties in one room, and we all discussed. Okay, we all don't have seats. We have some things in common, right? Outside of our differences, we all
yeah,
don't have seats.
yeah,
We believe both the NDP and the Sask Party are not going to do an effective job at fixing the problems, right? Whether it's taxes or job creation, managing our resources, homelessness, and so on.
yeah.
So we have some things in common. I said, can we discuss a strategy to avoid vote splitting and try and get some of us elected, right?
Mhm.
But the problem is, whether I wanted it or maybe the other guys wanted it, it's up to the leadership, right? And Naomi, for right or for wrong, she's the leader, and she says, "Look, we need to run a full slate because people will not." And my wife confirmed this. When I told her of these plans, to run in only certain seats to avoid splitting votes. My wife said, "I will never vote for another party." I said, "Well, but we're going to run on a joint platform,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
The representative, if they win, will respect the platform." She says, "Doesn't matter. I will only vote Green Party because I trust the Greens. I don't trust the other parties, right?" So this is the problem, right? Our system doesn't allow for cooperation. It only allows at this point, Sami, for competition, right?
Yeah.
And you mentioned earlier on when we were chatting off camera about Justin Trudeau's promise of fair elections.
Mhm.
If he had implemented a fair system,
Yeah.
I think every Canadian would not be so hostile. Right now, everybody's divided because they are in their own camp. Oh, I'm a conservative because I hate Justin Trudeau. The Liberals, because that's their leader, they back him no matter what. So those two camps at the federal level are split. And in Saskatchewan, same thing. There's no love lost between the Sask Party and the NDP. All they want is power. They're not
Yeah.
focusing on the issues. They just want to be in government.
Mhm.
And then the rest of us, I guess you could say we're almost too small to make a breakthrough. I hope somebody makes a breakthrough, because without the breakthrough, everybody will just keep voting for either the Sask Party or NDP, and they just keep trading seats. Alberta has become almost like that, where there's just two big parties, and
Yeah.
the smaller parties really don't get any media time or opportunity.
Yeah, and yeah, as you gave an example of your life partner, like your wife. So now you realize how common people think about
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
like they just set up a mind like I
Yeah.
need to, if I'm a liberal, if my ancestors were liberal, we just are liberal,
That's
or
right.
if we are conservative, we are just conservative, like
Yeah.
from parents, grandparents, like so on.
Yes.
And also like for the NDP too, now the people psychology must change, like
Mm-hmm.
I was chatting with yeah I was chatting with someone like he is running as an independent candidate from
Okay.
he's
Yes.
living in Waterloo, but he's running,
Mm-hmm.
like longest ballot committee. He
Mm-hmm.
is running from there. He also agreed with me. Yeah, this is people psychology. Like they just
Mm-hmm.
set in mind like we are not
Yes.
going to vote like that. And also like media is playing a critical role. His name is Mario Escoto.
Okay.
I had an interview a couple of days ago.
Oh,
And
nice.
then,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, you can check it on there. And
Right.
yeah, so but there is another thing. Media, mainstream
Mm-hmm.
media is playing a critical role to making these parties more, uh, giving them free advertisement.
That's right.
Like it means when they are when a candidate get nominated, it will be a headline. Then again,
That's right.
like if they say something, that would be, and they mostly give interviews they it mean they take interviews of those major parties. And I
Yeah.
don't think how many interviews you have given, or you are like Green Party has given to mainstream media yet.
Yeah, thanks to people like yourself, I think independent media is more likely to interview the Green Party than the mainstream. I think we got lucky because in 2011 and 2016 when I was leader,
Yeah,
because the country wasn't in such a bad situation after Justin Trudeau. I
yeah,
think the environment was higher up, so they kind of paid attention more to the Green Party. But
yeah,
now that there's like chaos and everything, the media also they say, well, they're almost lazy, Sami. They're like,
yeah,
even CBC, right? CBC has in their constitution, their mandate, they have to be fair to every party.
yeah,
But they're almost not fair, because these new parties come up and they say, but they're kind of really new, maybe we'll interview them later,
mm,
but it's just like, look, this is laziness, right? Like,
yeah,
what else are you doing when you have full-time work, 8 hours a day? You set up the interview like you did. You set up the time, the place, right? And then you do the interview.
yeah,
It doesn't have to be an hour. It could be 10 minutes, right?
yeah,
But they don't do it because they're like, well, if I just focus on the big parties, I won't get in trouble. But if I
yeah,
start interviewing the small parties and the small parties start saying the truth, maybe the guy at the top doesn't want to hear the truth. They don't want
yeah,
the people to hear the truth. So then they sidelined it, right? They also edit, right? Sometimes even if you say the truth, they edit it out, right?
yeah,
So it's really tricky, Sami. Like, I mean, I don't agree 100% with Elon Musk, but when he talks about legacy media,
yeah,
the old way of doing things, yes, a lot of it is filtered.
yeah,
And I found I've been in politics for now 30 years. If you don't, even if you try and play the game the same way they play it, they don't care. They move the goalposts, right? Because I'll tell you, before the Green Party didn't exist, so we had nothing. Then we exist and we started running candidates, but we couldn't run a full slate because we didn't have the resources,
mm,
and they didn't really pay attention to us. So I asked them, well, why aren't you giving us equal media coverage? Well, you're not big enough. Okay, so we run a full slate,
yeah,
and then they still say, well, but you don't have anyone elected. And
mm,
I'm thinking, well, you just keep changing the criteria, man. You could say anything. You could say, well, I'm not running enough women, or I'm not running enough minorities, or I don't have enough gay people running, right? You could just
yeah,
lie every time. You
mm,
can't do that. Everybody has to be treated fairly. And I think we need to change the election laws that govern all the parties to
yeah,
be fair. So instead of letting the Sask party raise millions and say that, the smaller parties only raise tens of thousands,
Mm.
we should say, no, none of that is allowed anymore. If you register your party, you will be given a minimum amount of money, not a lot,
Yeah,
maybe
yeah, yeah,
$10,000, right?
yeah.
That's it. That's all you're allowed to spend, and you can put out your message, right, to everybody. What
Yeah.
we'll give you one flyer each,
Mm.
but other than that, so then everybody has equal chance, right? And
Yes.
then people can decide. Oh yeah, I read everybody's pamphlet. I heard them on TV. The
Mm.
biggest one, Sami, that people, if they care at all, they pay attention to is the leaders debate. Well, we right now in Saskatchewan we have I think 6 registered parties, right? 6 different leaders,
Yes.
and yet in this next election, October, you'll hear only 2 leaders: the
Yes.
Sask party and the NDP.
Yeah.
But there's like 4 other parties, but you won't hear anything because the media says, well, you don't have any seats, you don't have enough money, whatever, right? And they leave them out, right? It's just a very unfair competition, even if it is a competitive system. They just make it so that people only think there's 2 choice, and if they're going to vote, they're going to have to vote for one or the other. That's why most of the seats, if not all the seats, will either go to the Sask party or NDP. And it's not fair because not only for the parties, but it's also unfair for the people because
Yes.
the issues that they care about, the 2 parties might not address it, and therefore nobody the issue won't get discussed because they couldn't elect anybody to discuss it in the legislature. So
Yes.
yeah, it's very hard to get change. The system is very unfair, I would say, and whenever we meet with Election Saskatchewan, our leader or our representatives, they always hammer them saying, how can you say this is fair? When you don't do this, you don't do this. And then they blame the politicians because they say, well, we can't change the rules. We only enforce the rules, but the politicians have to agree with the rules, right? They change it. And a quick thing I'll tell you, Sami,
Yeah.
the NDP, this is a bad thing they did. If they are really a democratic party, they failed because the Sask party came to them and said, look, we want to change one of the rules in the Election Act. And the NDP was very suspicious because they know they don't trust the Sask party. They said, well, what rule do you want to change? Well, we want to make the nomination deposit from $100 per candidate to $500 per candidate.
Wow.
Yeah, right? See, you immediately see the problem. It's like, well, okay, the Sask party has millions of dollars. They don't care what the nomination deposit is because they can afford it. The NDP has the unions, so the unions will cough up more money to pay for their candidates and deposits. All the other parties, where are we going to find the $500, right?
Yeah.
They say, well, but it's refundable. Yeah, but you have to find it first, right? So
Yeah.
you're making it harder for any new party to compete, right? See, again, and the NDP, they should have said, no, we disagree with you. We're not going to go. This is making it unfair for other parties, let alone, to challenge you.
Yeah.
But instead they went along with it because they said, well, we don't want the smaller parties to take over our seats, right? And I'm thinking, oh my God, you guys,
Wow,
So,
this is very new. I was not aware of this one, and thank you so much.
well, and I'll quickly tell you this, Sami, it's illegal in Ontario where you live,
Yeah.
not only at the provincial level, but at the federal seat level. The smaller party, there was a party called the Communist Party of Canada. They went to court at the provincial and federal level. They already have legal law saying you cannot discriminate against smaller parties because that infringes on the constitutional rights of Canadians to vote.
Yeah.
Because if you don't know there's a Green Party or a smaller party, how would you vote for them? Right? You just wouldn't, right? If you go to vote, you probably see it on the ballot, but you wouldn't know anything about them. So they said anything that makes it harder for the smaller parties to grow, to get elected, legally you can't do that. Well, Saskatchewan, they're ignoring it. We're trying to bring a lawyer to challenge them because last time we challenged them, they backed off and made it more fair because they tried to increase the amount of signatures. I think you had to get more signatures, right? Saskatchewan, when the NDP first started here under the CCF, they made the election laws because they were an honest government then. They made it fair. They said, no, you know what? You shouldn't have to get hundreds of signatures. We'll say 4 signatures. As long as they're legitimate, that's good. Nowhere else, man. Manitoba, right beside us, right? Yeah. Manitoba, provincial election, a candidate has to get over 100 signatures. Wow. That's crazy, right? Because that's the federal amount, right? Why 100? It should only be 5, maybe 10 signatures at most, right? So, I don't know. We'll see if it gets worse, Sammy. I think the parties that have power, they just want to maintain power. They don't care about people anymore, right? And that's why I think the NDP is starting to collapse, because they talk about caring about people, but their words sound really good, but their intentions, their actions, people can see. Right now, what's his name? Jagmeet Singh. He
Yeah,
keeps talking about, I hate loblaws. I'm going to fight these guys. What do you mean fight them? What have you done other than
yeah,
yell at them? You haven't achieved anything, man.
yeah,
Like,
and you are keep propping up liberal government, and this is the
exactly.
liberal government who funded, I think, a $20 million to Labla
Yep.
for changing the refrigerator. Like
Yes.
they can
See, you
say,
remember that. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Our company is profitable. There's no reason to give them money, right? They're not a small. See, if you and me ran a small business and
yeah,
we need refrigeration, well,
yeah,
maybe you help us out. We grow bigger. We hire more people.
yeah,
Loblaws is already massive, man. They
yes,
they don't need government money, man. It's just
yeah.
corruption. So
And they pay like worker like us like a minimum wage, and the top
yeah,
executives, like they make billions of
yeah, that
dollars.
shouldn't be. I think when I started, the bottom wage was almost, yeah, I think it was $1.60, almost $2 more than yeah, so it was worthwhile.
Yeah,
Now the union doesn't do enough, right? The
yeah,
minimum for working at a Loblaw store should be $20 an hour minimum,
yeah,
right? And then you go up from there. But they
yeah.
they also trick you, Sammy. You have to get 1,000 hours before you get a raise. But how do you get 1,000 hours if you're working 10 or 15 hours a week?
Hours
Like,
week. Yeah.
yeah, it's corruption, man. Yeah, I'm very frustrated too as a Canadian.
Mhm.
To the people coming in, right? The immigrants coming in, because my parents were immigrants, and then the people living here. Everybody's angry,
Yes.
but we need to not hate each other through the parties. We need to, as Canadians, sit down, talk to each other, and say, "Look, is this right?" Right?
Yeah.
And I think most people, when they realize, oh, you're just talking about fixing things. It's like, I mean, I had hoped I could get elected, but I think I just didn't talk to enough people, or I don't know. I don't know. It's very frustrating, because it's like, I don't understand. Like, you people say they want, less corruption, honest politicians, but then they elect these guys, and then it's like, what are you doing? You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. Like it is just crazy, and with respect to bringing up Jagmeet Singh, and
Hmm.
also it seems like Jagmeet Singh is not the NDP guy, like New Democrats always been for the workers and for the
Yes.
people, like
Yeah.
you also always care about Canadians, and today Canadians saying it means saying it bluntly, I would say. It
Hmm.
means, yeah, we don't need this liberal government. It is making us sick. Like
Hmm.
the unemployment is rise,
Yeah.
homelessness is on the peak, and the crime rates are up, and the cost of living is unaffordable. Everything is
Yes.
unaffordable. There is a housing crisis. Like
Yeah.
you cannot buy a house. So you
Hmm.
need to come. They tell so dissolve the parliament, like
Yeah.
the like
Yeah.
other two parties don't want this one, and why you are keep propping up. So there are
Yeah.
some jokes, but some people I sit down with them,
Hmm.
like there were some journalists and
Hmm.
analysts or political commentator
Oh,
and
okay. Yeah.
some leaders, yeah, like they are running as candidate, like they said no, this is true. Jagmeet Singh is keep propping Jagmeet Singh keeps propping up a liberal government for the sake of his pension, which is
Hmm.
eligible in February. You know, like if it is not about his pension, so he could dissolve this parliament. Like we
Yes.
are sick, and I know like you are a supporter of Green, but still
Yes.
you are sick of this government. Like
Yeah.
they are not
Yeah.
doing
I, I
what is
think
it
I think
about
you're
them.
right. It is. I would like to hope it isn't, but from what I can tell, it is self-interested, right?
Yeah,
He once he loses power, if you look at the polling, and the polling sometimes is inaccurate, but if you look at the polling, the
yeah,
NDP will lose a ton of seats, right?
yeah,
And the Liberals will be decimated. The
mhm,
Conservatives seem destined to take over many of the seats.
yeah,
I wish them well. I hope they actually fix some things, but I don't hear a lot of realistic solutions. Right?
yes, yes,
I like my member of parliament. He's a conservative. His name is Michael Cram. I've met him a couple times on the campaign trail, and I think he's done not too badly. I know his staff a bit. The problem is, they the conservative, every party sort of has a political DNA, let's call it that, right? They think not 100% the same way, but they sort of have this in common. And I've been a member of the Conservative Party way back when, and I met a lot of good people. But the one thing I think that really most conservatives that are in that party believe is everybody has to make their own way in life. So if they fall into trouble, that's not really our fault. That's not my fault, right? If my neighbor suddenly gets cancer, not my fault. If they lose their job, not my fault. I didn't employ that man, right? So it's kind of like a blame game, okay, for them. Now there's a kind of Tory, or sorry, conservative, that's called a red conservative, red Tory. They have a little bit more compassion that say, even if I don't, it isn't my job to employ my neighbor, but he lost his job. Perhaps I can give him some food. Perhaps I can give him a reference, right? Because he is my neighbor. If I don't help him, will he help me when I lose my job, when I get cancer, right? But a lot of the other guys, I don't know why. There's something wrong with their thinking. They think, no, it's not my problem. Why would I spend any tax dollars to help my neighbor?
yes,
And it's like, well, then why would he help you? Are you saying we're all alone in this world? We should just, Sami, why would I help you? If you get cancer, forget it. No, I don't know you, man. Right? If we all act like that, right? We worry
yeah,
only about ourselves and our family, maybe a few friends, but we don't worry about anybody else. It's
mhm,
going to be a terrible world, man. I do not want my children to
mhm,
be like that. And I certainly wouldn't want the world to grow up, 10, 20 years down the road having that attitude, because we will explode, man. Like we'll all be greedy when we
yeah,
have money, but then we'll blame everyone else when we have nothing, right? And it's just
yeah,
like
yeah, yeah,
crazy. Just leads to craziness, right?
yeah. Yeah, it is like, and this is not a Canadian way, like
That's right.
Canadian always show respect and care, like
Yes.
no matter where you come from, though you are
Yep.
my neighbor, yeah, I like you, like always to give you a hand, and especially when you are living in place like Saskatchewan, where
Mm-hmm.
during winter, snow, like when your
Yes.
car gets stuck, so suddenly and a stranger comes out from his car or walking, they
Yes.
will push it, like it happened
Exactly.
multiple times with me, and it means everyone try to help you out, and this
Yeah.
is how Canadians live, and this is the Canadian standard way of
Yeah.
living.
Well, we have to, like, as forget the parties, but as
Yeah,
as members of a country living here, we all have to love each other, right? I think
yeah,
that's a one very powerful word that hasn't been used, and I don't want it to be abused, right? Used to get election votes, used to get power, and then
yeah,
basically forget about it. But
yes,
but I think my hero, why I got into politics, was the CCF leader Tommy Douglas, who
yeah,
created Medicare, and
mhm,
I think part of what his mission was to because of his religion, he wanted to expand through government an act of love, right?
mhm,
I have compassion for the person that is abusing drugs. I have the compassion for the person who's stealing to survive. I have compassion for people that have mental illness. They're hurting people. They don't even know they're doing it, right?
yeah,
But when we just say, as a conservative seem to be saying, none of that matters. The mental ill guy, the guy that's stealing, the guy that is dying on the street from drug abuse. That's not my problem. I didn't
yeah,
give him drugs. I didn't make him steal, and I didn't give him no job. Yeah,
mhm,
but he's your neighbor, man, right? In the
yeah,
Bible, it says, "Care for your neighbor as you would care for me." Right,
yes,
and these guys say they're religious. I'm like, you guys don't even know the meaning of this. I'm not even a Christian, man, and I know more than you do. Come on, that makes no sense, man.
yeah, yeah,
All the religions, and I'm very humbled when I meet people from kind of the different countries, the immigrants and stuff. They have almost less than nothing, and yet they welcome me, right? They offer a drink, they offer what food they have. I mean, like you said, Sami, that used to be the Canadian way. Now it's like, no, I can't help you, right? I don't know you, go away, and part of it is the fear. I think because our society has become so not dealing with the problem of crime, sometimes people take advantage of it, right? You open your home,
yeah,
they rob you, right? They might even assault you and your family, and so there's a yeah. I think unless we address it as neighbors, as community, we'll never solve the problems, right? We individualism can go only so far. It's about building, just like the union, right? We're all brothers and sisters. An injury to one of us is an injury to all of us, right? We're not going to put up with it.
yeah,
That's the way I put up. That's how I live my life, right? And I don't have a lot of resources anymore because I'm not a union member.
yeah,
But as much as I can offer help to somebody, I will, right? Because it's like I would hope that they would help me back, right?
yeah, yeah.
So
And
yeah.
you have a great platform. Like it means you are again running as an candidate. Like
Mm-hmm.
and it's still you are in a green party, which is a great big voice. Like from
Mm-hmm.
youngsters, especially are more worried about the environment and they want to support uh green party. Like
Mm-hmm.
yeah, as you said, like you may lack of resources, but you still want to do, and everyone needs to help out if you can, anywhere, anytime. And yeah, but due to rise of crime, then there
Mm-hmm.
are many folks who cannot be trusted. That's why some
Yes.
folks close their doors, but everyone is not like that one. There everywhere there could be a couple of bad apples, but all apples are not bad you know
Yes. Yes. That's the fortunate thing. I think the media doesn't do because people still see media, even if they don't subscribe to papers or television, they still see headlines across social media,
yeah,
and a lot of the headlines are scary, right? They're not positive news stories, right? And if they would focus not almost a balance, right? 50% the bad stories, war here, crime there, and maybe other 50%. Oh, look at this guy. He has a factory and he doesn't have is starting to lose workers and business, but he still donated to the food bank because he said, when I was poor, I had to use the food bank, and I'm not going to let people starve. I'll still fight for people to have food, right? If they balanced it off, people would have more hope. I think that's,
mhm,
Sammy, I think that's what's happening. People, doesn't matter all over. Even if you have money, you see the anger around you because
yeah,
if you're eating all this food and other people are watching you and they don't have the money for the food, you can sense the anger, right? And
yeah,
so what can you do? Other people, other countries, they would share. But here, no, they don't share nothing. My wife, she sees people. We don't give them money, but she said, "Look, are you hungry? Here's some food, right?"
yeah,
You try and do what you can, but I don't know. It's very frustrating. Even within my extended family,
mhm,
on my wife's side, most of them have money because they have good jobs. They have good wealth from their family, but
yeah,
they always talk about. They don't talk about the poor. They talk about, oh, where are we going to go on vacation this year? Look what I bought for my children, right? I'm thinking, this is meaningless, man. I don't
yeah,
care where you went on vacation. I don't really care what you bought for your children. That's nice, but you're
yeah,
not teaching your children anything other than to consume. Have
yeah,
you have you taught your children, look around? Maybe we can help at a food bank or
yeah,
help at a soup kitchen, right? Teach them about suffering,
yeah,
but you're not teaching them the right values. I think. I mean, even ourselves. My kids are older now, but I think we try to, say wherever you can help, you
mhm,
should, right? And there's
yeah,
stories. My daughter, one of the stories I share with people, I asked her, they go by they them, but I asked if I could share their story, and they, when they were in high school, they took peer counseling, so they became certified to be a counselor. And one time she was talking to one of her friends, and the guy said, "Okay, well, I guess I should go now. Goodbye." And she just sensed something was wrong. She says, "Well, I'll see you tomorrow, right? You're going to school." And he goes, "No, I don't think I'm going anywhere anymore. I think I'm finished." Right. And then she's like, "Oh my God." She recognized that something was wrong. So she kept him talking on the cell phone, and she got the home phone, the
yeah, yeah,
cordless, and she phoned 911 and said, "Look, I think my friend on the other line is about to commit suicide. Like I think you got to send someone." And sure enough, when the police arrived and they had to break open the door, he
yeah,
was in the bathtub and he had a razor blade. He was talking to her, ready to kill himself. And yeah, if it was, he later, when he's recovered now, but he said, if it wasn't for you talking to me, if you had hung up and said goodbye, I would have just slit my wrists, and my parents weren't going to be home for a while because they were working, and I would have probably died, right? And so it's like it's stories like this where I think we all have to try and do more for other people more than for ourselves. Like if you have a home, you have enough. Like I'm trying to downsize in my life because all this stuff we have, is meaningless, man. The religions teach us, like help thy neighbor, help other people. That's what we should all be doing, right? And the more money you have, obviously the more you should be able to help, right? I mean, I can give $20 to a charity, but a guy that has millions, why aren't you giving $2,000? Like,
Yeah.
right? Why would you give $20? You're a millionaire, man. Like, spend some of your money. Like, so yeah, I don't know. But you don't hear that. You won't hear that from the big parties. They don't talk about that. They talk about tax cuts. They talk about they blame each other. That's the one thing I don't like in Saskatchewan. Sask party blamed the NDP. NDP attacks the Sask party. Nobody talks about solutions.
Mm.
So I'm like, this is meaningless, right? I could throw mud at people too, but
Yeah.
that's not solving the problem, right?
Problem. Yeah.
So
And thank you so much for bringing up your daughter role, like
mhm.
saving the life. Like this is a great, and say to her and say thank you so
Yeah,
much
for
for
sure.
saving the life. Like this is a great example, and this is great. I don't have any words to express about how she played a great role for saving our friend, and also someone like a Canadian,
Mhm.
like a life, like a human.
That's right. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
It's very fortunate,
yeah,
So
yeah.
mhm.
And yeah, and our politicians always just point fingers to each other rather than solving problem which won't solve the problem. This is not the solution. Rather,
Mhm.
we should come together and come to a solution, and also should work for the people, not
Yeah.
for the tycoons. I would call them. It means the
Mhm. Mhm.
the billionaires. Uh,
Well, and the greatest disappointment I think for all of us, that live in Canada, is in 2015 when Justin Trudeau became prime minister. We had so much hope, right? Here's a guy. He's young. He's not an old politician. He seems to be in touch with the younger generation that wants to protect the environment, wants good jobs, wants stability, right? Wants peace around the world.
yeah,
His dad used to his dad helped create the United Nations, what did they call them, the blue hats, the oh my goodness, like it's such an old program, but it basically peacekeepers.
yeah,
Canada created the peacekeeping idea that, look, if we're going to have soldiers out there, we shouldn't use them to attack people. We
yeah,
should use them to keep peace, to try and bring order to the world, right?
yeah.
Now we're talking about NATO. We're going to fund NATO. NATO attacks other countries, man. They're
Mhm.
attacking Russia right now, right?
Yeah,
It's insane. They're going to set off a nuclear war, and then we're all dead, right?
yeah,
And I think coming back to yes, the liberals. A quick example is this disability benefit. Everybody in Parliament, not a single no vote. Everybody agreed. The liberals said it at $200, $200 a month, man. Come on, how are you going to survive as a disabled person on $200 a month,
$200.
man? Yeah,
Mhm.
it's see, Sammy, they're out of touch. And here's the irony: so they give disabled people, however blind, deaf, mute, people in wheelchairs, right? Disabled people, and there's also supposedly mentally health care. They will cover that, 200 a month, but they themselves are paying themselves 20,000 a month. Come on, man. Do you not see the hypocrisy? Like, every Canadian, whether they're rich or poor, I think they look at that and think, what the hell are you doing, right?
Yeah,
Even a rich person, right,
yeah,
paying their taxes, right? I think they'd say, look, if you're going to take my taxes, at least pay the disabled guy 2,000 or 3,000 a month. How is he supposed to?
yeah.
$200, Sammy. Where will that buy you rent anywhere in Canada? $200. Come on,
I
you know.
don't think it could be good enough for the grocery for a week.
Oh, exactly. 200 is gone, man. It comes in, gone. They are so out of touch, man. I couldn't believe it when I heard that. I thought, my God, you guys are, you deserve to lose government just for that alone, right? I mean, let alone all the other scandals and corruption. They are so out of touch. I just hope the conservatives, I don't know. I say a prayer
Yeah,
that maybe God or something higher wisdom will enter them when they if they take office, because they will have a lot of problems to deal with, and if they don't deal with it honestly, I think the country will fall apart and they'll be feuding all over, possibly.
yeah, yeah. It is, yeah, terrible. We have a terrible situation, and Trudeau Like as you mentioned, like everyone knows, when he took office, there were lots of promises, but he did not come to a
Yes.
solution, and those were just words, like empty
Hmm.
promises, and he did not do, and he was found guilty of ethics
Yes.
violations, and then is ministers, and there are lots of going on. And since COVID, they also received pay raise, like since
Hmm.
2020, every April 1st, they are getting a bonus, or pay raise,
Yes.
I would say. And we saw like some other countries, especially in New Zealand during COVID, like prime minister and our cabinet, Jacinda Ardern, she was the prime minister at the time of New Zealand. She cut her pay like 20%, and
Wow.
also our
Yes.
cabinet. I was reading recently another. I think it was from South American country, whose
Okay.
leader also cut his salary, and also I
Yes.
think his cabinet salary. Like this is
Hmm.
how leader work. But
Yeah.
here our prime minister keeps getting a bump, and
Yeah.
also his ministers and MPs are today Canadian like Canadian
Hmm.
members of parliaments are the second highest pay makers in the world.
Yeah. Well, it's the same in I can give you in Saskatchewan. They just got a pay raise too. And there's poverty, homelessness, unemployed in Saskatchewan. But they didn't nobody, not the NDP, not the Sask party, they all took the pay increase. They don't need it, Semi. They
Yes.
they, they already are rich, right? And the saddest thing is Alberta, they attacked the federal government for the carbon tax, so they reduced the provincial tax on gas so that
Yeah.
people save a little bit.
Mm.
Saskatchewan won't do it, and I
Yeah.
and there's no reason. They have money, right? But they won't do it. They say, Justin Trudeau, you're ripping us off because you charge carbon tax on our gas. Yeah, but so do you, man. Like, so how can you point fingers at him when you won't cut the tax, right?
Mm.
It's a I think the hypocrisy is so huge now, right? And they don't see it. I think it's because they like to, again, we talked about this early on. They like to point fingers. That's their solution. Oh,
Mm.
don't call me the bad guy. Look at that guy, right? He's worse, right? He's the bad guy. Look at him and yell at him. Yeah, but you're not doing anything either, right? I mean, it's just crazy, man. I don't know though. But at the end of the day, politics in Canada, it's about convincing voters, and it's very hard because the voters are so hardened that they don't want they feel they feel very scared to trust someone new, right? Whether it's the Green Party or Sask Progress, Buffalo Party, they'd rather vote for what they know, even though it's not the perfect party.
Mm.
And that's the problem, though, right? Because Tommy Douglas, who founded the CCF, right, who became the NDP,
Yeah.
he had to face that too, right? Because it used to be liberals and conservatives in Saskatchewan. And he managed to say, look, if you keep voting for either of these guys that keep ripping you off,
Yeah.
you're just voting for a different team to rip you off. Like, why would you not vote for the team that says, I'm not going to rip you off? And if I do rip you off, I'll resign. You have it, you have it out here, right? I'm talking publicly, but you don't see that anymore, right? Like Jagmeet Singh, I don't think anyone believes him anything he says anymore because it's like, look, like you said, Sammy, if you really cared, you would have brought the government down. But instead, you prop him up. So that looks like self-interest. How else is it supposed to look, right? I mean, it's very frustrating. So
Yeah, and we will never see a leader like J.K. Douglas in Canadian lifetime, and especially for the NDP.
yeah, yeah.
NDP
I
is
think
just
I
one.
think once the election's over, he'll be forced to resign if he doesn't resign immediately. I don't know who could take over. Like they don't. The problem sometimes is when parties don't train people to be ready to take over. They
Yes.
they have this huge vacuum, right? They have almost like leaderlessness. BC's NDP faced that. They had a weak leadership race, and this guy that should have been the next premier.
Yeah.
When I watched him debate, I thought, oh my God, this guy's not going to win. And sure enough, they lost their government because
Yeah.
he was so ineffectual that people just didn't feel it's a privilege to be a politician, but it's
Yeah.
also what I call my study of it is it's a magic trick.
Mhm.
So I'm not saying that in a necessarily a bad way, but if you can do, like, say you and me were competing against each other,
Mhm.
and I managed to make a rabbit disappear, but you say, oh, you think that's good? Watch this, and you show people a big box empty, and you flip it over and you say, look at that, right? And it's full of rabbits, right? A whole bunch of rabbits jump out. People would say, wow, that guy's better than Victor. Victor made one rabbit disappear. Sami, He created 12 rabbits. That's incredible. See, it's all making people believe, right? That
Yeah,
this politician is going to do, and unfortunately, sometimes Sami, they do a great convincing job on the campaign trail and they win,
yeah,
but then they go on not to keep their promises, right? And I think we need some kind of legislation that says, look, if you make a promise, you have to show over your term of office what you did to try and fix things, right? What you did to try and keep your promises.
yeah.
Otherwise, I don't know how do you keep them accountable, right? You just keep changing different people. They all lie, right? It's the bigger lie wins, right? And that shouldn't be how democracy works, yeah. So
Yeah, and thank you. We went over an hour.
yeah,
I thought you just wanted an hour. Like we have great discussion. I know, like we know each other. I think for a long
hmm
time, but this is first time we are face to face. Like
well, I,
it's
I would love
over
to do.
conversation. Yeah,
Anytime I love your show. I'll promote your show, and maybe after the election, if you want, we can do a post-election interview. How
yes,
things went.
yeah,
What
yeah.
depending who won, that kind of thing, and analysis and stuff. Because
Yeah,
and
sure.
any
That would be great
Mhm.
help for me. Like when
For sure,
someone like you come on my show and join it. And today it
yeah,
was great. And I mostly wanted to about Green Party policies on how it is going and what they do. Unfortunately, we went from other things. It seems like there are lots of things are going on.
yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. Yeah,
And
well, we can always
yeah,
do another interview, if you
yeah,
want closer to the
yeah.
election. I mean, we're still working on specific policies. Like I was telling you, even though I'm deputy leader, I haven't been involved as closely. I'm letting the new people design whatever they're going to run on. I know one of the big policies that I hope will be in there is because I know Naomi, the leader, believes in it. So do I. Is the guaranteed income. Like we are so close. We know the money is there, but it's convincing people to believe in it and maybe elect people that get it done, right, to redistribute the money, because we know the money's there, man. Canada is wealthy. We're, like
Yeah.
you mentioned earlier on, we're a first world country. How can we not eliminate poverty? That's ridiculous. Like, yeah,
Yeah, and thank you, and hopefully see you again and in time soon.
yeah, good stuff. Good luck with the show.
Okay. Thank you so much, Victor, again to joining me on the Sami Parvez show. It was a great discussion and looking forward.
Yeah, yeah.